Hello, everybody, and welcome back. This is me, Scotty, checking in again. Just here for another drop-in podcast. We're kind of doing a bit of a quick and dirty one here as a recap from our GameCon experience, which I wanted to touch base with you guys about. Both for those of you who were able to join us and those who maybe weren't able to make it out. GameCon just did take place, just not this last weekend, but the weekend before that. Would have been June 14, 15, 16. We were there, Trident, alongside just about everybody else, it seems like. When it comes to the gaming world, both tabletop and video, the halls were bouncing all weekend. There was our primary reason to be there was to help host the Play On Narrative Warhammer 40k tournament that went on both Saturday and Sunday. And it was just an absolute blast. It was kind of a little bit surreal being able to meet the Play On tabletop folks that came out. They were just spectacular all weekend. As well as, of course, being able to just kind of get to know all the various con goers who were dropping by the booth that we were sharing with Red Claw from Friday through Sunday. We did have ourselves set up in the main tabletop gaming hall. There was the kind of two separate halls, one for the video game world and one for the tabletop world. Of course, they both held a lot of mystique for us tabletop players. As I know, in the video game hall, there was a constant, gigantic lineup to play Space Marine 2, which I know at least a few of us also went over a few times to enjoy. The game is pretty wild. So if you haven't had a chance to at least see some demos online, highly suggest you do go take a look, because that game's bumping. But we're more interested in the game that was bumping down in Hall E, I believe it's called, at Northlands Expo. It's the big arena-shaped area where I know I've attended more than a few sporting events in the past. But for this weekend was now a Warhammer arena. And that's where the narrative event went on. I believe they had, I'm pretty sure it was an even 100 players playing all through the weekend for the narrative event. It was absolutely wild. I remember when we were setting up on Thursday, you really start to get a sense of the scope of what an event like that is like. Even though at Trident we've run lots of events and we've run some bigger ones and we're looking to run some even bigger ones this year, that was kind of a new record for us, so that was pretty wild and pretty cool. The fellows at Red Claw were running it alongside Play On, kind of as co-TOs. So, shout out to Daniel Schneider, who was kind of the pivotal linchpin in that whole arrangement. But certainly not the only one. Of course, Dave, Daniel Wartall were all involved, and like I said, more than a few of the Play On folks. All coming together to put on just a wicked show. Us for Trident, we actually weren't running this event. Our main job was actually just bringing in, I think, the majority of the terrain that was used, which was kind of a cool thing because we kind of got to see our whole collection kind of on, or most of our collection on display. We ended up, I think we covered about 40 of the 50 tables that they needed. It was an incredible grind. Not a bad thing, but certainly a little bit of a time-tested Trident tradition now is the summer terrain grind, which we seem to find ourselves hit, 3 years in a row now for sure, where we end up having to come together and we end up pulling, not just Bill and Arthur and I and Andy, but numerous guys who are associated with Trident and a few who sometimes even aren't, coming in to volunteer their time to work weekends on updating and building and painting terrain, and this was no exception. We had been looking to kind of expand and bump up our numbers a little bit, and also we still have more to do because we're for those of you who are fantasy inclined, working on some AOS stuff now too. But it was a bit of a hustle to get everything together, but we were happily up to the task. We managed to get everything up and going before the week before GameCon took place, and organized into totes. It was crazy seeing Bill Bonko's garage full with 40 plus totes full of terrain and numerous other pieces lying around. And then, of course, getting everybody together with Dave and Bill and etc. to kind of pack this stuff up and get it down to the expo and get it on the tables and get the tables all lined up and all that stuff, moving mats around, and it just a wild ride for the 24 hours or so that we worked on it. But like I said, the cool part was once you actually get it all down and you can actually kind of see what these tables look like. And of course, like I said, Play On was running a narrative tournament, so a lot of these tables also had a little bit of an extra shine to them, because you're trying to create narrative as it is to enhance the play for the players. And then, of course, Red Claw was providing a few pieces as well, or a few tables as well, and they were doing just the same with theirs. Daniel had some really wicked cool custom layouts that he wanted for a couple of the Red Claw's tables, which were just amazing to both watch and to play on, I'm sure. Especially then, also knowing this is GameCon, there's hundreds and hundreds of people coming in every day who are not to play, but just to check things out, and being able to show that off to all the event goers. Upstairs in the main halls where all the booths were, we were set up, trying to kind of get to know some folks that maybe we don't always run into, or some out-of-towners. And also, of course, trying to introduce some of our awesome Trident merch to people who haven't had a chance to see it outside of maybe our website or our events. As is often the case with cons, there's a lot of folks who weren't even tabletop gamers, and certainly not Warhammer gamers, who see cool stuff. You stop by, you have a chat, and we got to meet tons of cool people who maybe we never would have otherwise crossed paths with, and also hopefully spark some interest in Warhammer for them. Certainly spark some interest in all sorts of stuff for us. I know I took a few runs around the halls through the weekend, and just some of the stuff that you see people put on display is just wild. And that was true actually of the game, or of the video game hall as well. I'm not a huge video gamer, which is, I know, very weird. It's makes me unwelcome in many parts, but I don't play a ton, but I still was able to see a lot of really cool stuff that I'm like, geez, maybe I should be a bigger video gamer. Anyhow, so that was really cool. Really cool to meet these people. And we actually did get to also kind of get some different perspectives on the game, both, from handling and working around a lot of the narrative gamers and the narrative tournament going on there, but also, being able to interact with a lot of the other booths that were upstairs with board games or card games and things like that. Altogether, just a wild, cool experience for us. We were very fortunate to be able to be a part of it, and we're super thankful to have been able to work with Play On and Red Claw to be present, not just present at the con, but also hopefully a decently important part of it. We also really are thankful for their generosity in helping get us into there and helping to cover some of our costs and things like that for the weekend. Going forward, because I know, from what I understand, I believe GameCon is signed up for I think it was a 3 or 4 year contract that they had signed on to stick around in Edmonton. Hopefully, once all the dust settles and the folks who are the powers that be for it are able to count their pennies and count their numbers and stuff and consider their future, they're happy to keep going with GameCon here in Edmonton, because it is an awesome opportunity for us locals to kind of get a con that maybe we don't normally get to see in these parts. And I know for sure that there's hopefully a lot of opportunity to expand. Northland's a huge area, and we did take up, I think it ended up being 3 halls worth of space once you accounted for the play space and whatnot. But I mean, there's more halls there, and on top of that, there's also the fact that, I know the Hall E where we were running the event, there was probably enough space for another 100 gamers down there for much of the weekend. I know on Saturday there was some events that were taking place down there as well. I believe there were some card game events, some MTG, but that was only one of those days. And whilst they did have some space set aside for what I believe was just kind of pickup gaming, the wheels in my head at least were spinning about like, geez, like the space is big enough that we could easily do 200 players in here. Easily, probably more, just depending on, who else you would need to share it with. But considering that there are multiple other halls there in Northlands that are available, I also look at it like, there's no real reason why we can't, right? It's just tied to getting signups. And I do know that there were, I didn't get to speak to anybody specific. I just kind of got the hearsay. I believe there were some events that were supposed to run at GameCon that didn't end up running for one reason or another, which is obviously a bummer. And I feel awful for both any gamers who might have signed up for those or for any organizers who weren't able to meet their demands. But at the same time, I can't help but think about how many people were cruising through GameCon that weekend, just there to take in the sights, let alone participate in anything. And it really feels to me like an awesome chance to be able to run a whole bunch of events. And I'm a tabletop gamer. That's kind of where I'm focused. But there's got to be room to run some much more grander card games and board games as well. Some of those, especially when you're talking like Pokemon or Magic, are gigantic systems. Game of Thrones as well. Things like that, I know that there are lots of events that run locally, but let's get those local organizers together for this kind of thing, because this is something that can really benefit everybody. And I know, among us Trident guys, we've talked a lot about, what we would need or what we would want to be involved on a bigger scale, but we really would love to be a bigger part of what goes on at GameCon, and that's something that we will absolutely be looking to pursue next year, depending on exactly how the GameCon organizers themselves end up feeling about things. But really, what an awesome stage, right? When you know that you've got this big space that you're going to be having lots of people who are interested in games from the whole, not just from the whole Edmonton area, from everywhere. I know we met multiple people from across the U.S. at the event this weekend, and I wasn't even there for the whole thing. Right now, Bill Blanco, he can't be on this podcast with me because he's actually still in a coma. The poor guy was there pretty much Thursday afternoon when we started setting up, and I don't think he slept or left until Sunday evening when we cleaned up. His family reported him missing. It was actually really touch and go for a while. But anyhow, it just goes to show that, over the course of that 3 days or so, just how much you get to interact with the community, not just the Warhammer community, but the gaming community in general. So for us, we look at it and say this is an awesome stage, and we would love to see it grow. So if you did get a chance to go to GameCon this last weekend here, that hop in the comments here and tell us a little bit about your experiences. And if you didn't, I highly suggest you get the chance to next year when they roll around. Especially, of course, we'll be sure to be talking about it here on the channel and touching base with you guys as the year goes on, and as we find out more about how things are going to go, and if we're going to be involved again next year, and hopefully maybe even involved a little more. Because I have a whole whack of ideas of things that we could do for Warhammer, for AOS, for Kill Team, for just a variety of systems that we're using to entertain ourselves and looking to grow within the community. If I had to pick some things which I think we probably could see improvement on for next year or further on for GameCon, I think one of the primary things I would probably just look to kind of improve on would be signage. I feel just with how much is going on, with how many people are moving around, with the fact that there is, numerous events that go on each day, that not just the events themselves, but little demos for games or little tournaments or little prize giveaways, things like that. And then, of course, ideally, multiple larger tournaments going on, like what we had going with the narrative. I feel like there could be a little bit more written communication put around, because there were times where I felt like the narrative 40K guys were actually not getting as much eye space as they probably should have. Because it's a really cool sight to be able to watch them. Of course, being in the arena there is amazing, because of course there even is an upper and a lower bowl. So if you wanted to, you could go and hang out and watch them from some pretty cool vantage points that you don't normally get to watch 40K from, which is really cool. But because the doors were shut, and because we were across the hall, and because there wasn't a ton of signage pointing you to this, that, or the other thing, I feel like in some ways we actually had lower visibility than I would have liked. And I'm sure maybe some of the gamers would rather not be gawked at, don't get me wrong. But I do think that really, like, if you're putting on a big event, that is a bit of a show to be able to go and take that in. And of course, especially with the narrative event, because it's almost every hour that the TOs are doing an awesome job of inputting some pretty cool stuff to happen across multiple tables or involving multiple players, which just kind of adds to the spectacle. And that goes also for the things that were happening up in the upstairs halls. There were a few pre-arranged events that did have a sign up that they'd be happening at 6 o'clock on Saturday or whatever. But there was also lots that, there wasn't really a whole lot pointing you to it. You either had to have known about it ahead of time via some word of mouth or whatever, or you had to, just be around when an announcement got made, which is just, I feel like a bit of a missed opportunity. And that same went in that same vein. The same thing goes for the website, which I thought was really well done. It's a really flashy website. It's really cool. It definitely had most of what was going on at Gamescom on it, but oftentimes it didn't actually make it very obvious when some things were happening, or how to attend these things if they were in fact still available to attend, which I felt kind of sucked, because you have these really cool events going on. Let's get people involved, and I know that was probably, I would assume, a little better over with the video game side, because they did have like this really cool, big, awesome setup on the stage going on. They had their own organizer, and maybe if you were hanging out in there, you probably got some updates on some things taking place. But if you were anywhere else, you didn't know about that stuff. You certainly weren't going to hear the stage. You weren't going to see what was being put up on there. So. That would just be cool if we could up the ante on that a little bit better, and make sure that the people who are coming in just to take in the events can know where they are and when they're happening. Nice thing about that is that these are very simple things to fix. They don't take a huge amount of hassle to correct for next year and onwards. Certainly, I know I'd even volunteer to help. Believe me, I love organizing that kind of stuff. So that would be my primary complaint when I, spent some time there this weekend or that weekend and thinking, oh, well, what could we do a little better? There was like awesome options as far as food went and other venues. The eatery kind of there at Northlands was good, but they also had at least 6 or 7 food trucks on site, doing everything from lunch to ice cream. So, there was lots of options. Pricing actually was not wild. I know a lot of times, anytime you think about a con, that's like price has to be something that sticks in your head. But like really, as far as cons go, when I went to get lunch and it only cost me like $7 or $8, I was like, okay, well, that's actually pretty good for a con, right? That's just the nature of the beast. So that was pretty nice. And ultimately, on the tail end of things, when we were getting kind of the end on Sunday, it was also really nice when we did kind of get together to pack up how well things went over. Northlands is, obviously a gigantic venue that has a lot of amenities when it comes to setup and teardown. So that was somewhat expected, but it is still something that organizers need to be aware of, is how much work is it to actually get in and out of places? How much, can you count on your venue to support you in these fronts? And Northlands did a great job of that, at least as far as I could see. And that's one more reason why, to my mind, it's like, okay, well, there's 6-7 halls at Northlands. Why were we stopping at 3? And because I truly do not believe that is the limit of what, they can realistically expect to work there. I think it's just on the front of being able to get more community organizers in, more people who are dedicated and committed to actually making stuff work, and then we can do it. I know pretty much, off the top of my head anyway, pretty much every game store in the city that I can think of was there. They all had booths set up, or sometimes multiple areas set up. Everybody was, running little things here and there. Everybody was hosting various little shows and whatnot. Of course, there was, you could buy pretty much whatever you wanted from just about anybody. And like the foot traffic was pretty decent, especially Saturday, as you might expect. It was pretty busy, so I know we did just fine. So realistically, and that's, for the first time that this event is running, and even with relatively poor signage. So honestly, I look at it and I say, well, this is an opportunity. This is obviously something that we've done already, but opportunity wise, there's definitely room for growth there, and I would love to see it grow, because not only yes, selfishly, obviously we want to get involved in more things and be able to participate more in that, but also for the game community of Edmonton, of Alberta, of Canada, this is an awesome thing, and the more we can grow it, the better. So again, I know I'm not privy to the discussions or the feelings of anyone at the top of the GameCon ladder, but certainly I know PlayOn felt great about how things went. Red Claw felt great about how things went, and so did we. So, with our tiny little section of what was going on, we felt like things, were awesome, but we also all saw and felt like, wow, there's opportunity here. And that, to feel that way after running a 100-person event is pretty cool. So here's hoping that this time next year we'll be talking about how much bigger of a GameCon we just put on, and how amazing everything went again. But in the meantime, we can look back on this one and say that it all shook out pretty well. Like I said, if any of you guys were at the con, were able to either participate in or otherwise just take in the sites, please go ahead and hop on and give us some of your own takes about how things went. I know obviously if you participated in one or more of the events, you're going to have a lot more insight than I did, because at the end of the day, I'm just there walking around like a tourist. But if you were able to play or able to, go and one of the lucky guys who got to sit there all day playing Space Marine, or maybe you were in the cosplay contest or stuff like that, we'd love to hear from you guys. I know that the con has created a lot of discourse online in Edmonton, so hopefully we can get some of you guys to contribute here as well with your thoughts and opinions, and also some things that you guys think were really well done or could be done better in the future. Because like I said, I would love to see this grow. And yeah, in the meantime, we'll check out for now. I am kind of getting to the point now. I don't want to say I'm behind, but I'm at the point where I've got an itch to get some Codex reviews in. So hopefully I'll be booking some guests. You don't just have to listen to me anymore. Come in and we can talk about some of the more recent codexes that rolled out. I know I've got some friends who are definitely interested in coming and sharing their thoughts on, how ridiculously overpowered custodes are, or how weak orcs are. If only the Bully Boys detachment had been any good, that would have been nice, things like that. So we'll be covering those off hopefully in the next few weeks here, getting some of that in. And then of course, as we shift into July, we've kind of got this neat thing going on where our July is relatively light on at least 40k content, but we do of course have the SummerSlam coming through for Blood Bowl up here, or coming up soon here, and then right at the start of August we've got our awesome Trident weekend, where we're going to have Saturday, Sunday twofer, back to back. We're going to have the AOS Genesis RTT, that's August, I want to say 3rd. Scott pulls up a calendar. Yes, August 3rd for AOS Genesis. And then on August 4th, we're going to have the Double or Nothing 40k doubles event. 2 separate one-day events, both in one weekend though. One AOS, one of them 40k, one of them singles, one of them doubles. But all together Trident. So that's our next big shindig that we're going to be running. So go ahead and those are up on BCP, and I of course will include the links in the description below. So you can go check those out if you're not on there already. And then, hopefully we'll be seeing you guys out at one or both or all of that. And hopefully you guys are also getting into the swing of summer now as we hit up the end of June. For any of you who are listening to this when it launches, which should be Wednesday, the 26th, I think, is when we're going live with this, you will already know how the hockey game on Monday night went. I, right now, do not. So, wherever you are watching or listening to this, share your thoughts with me. Share your prayers with me. Share your condolences to me, because this is a very stressful time in my life, and it's not even related to war games, which is usually what it's all about. But if you're an Oilers fan, I hope you guys have had a great time this week. I hope that you guys are off to a great kickoff to your summer, and I'll see you in the next one.
Did you plug the Patreon? We need to plug the Patreon.